Have you ever wanted to make hard, dark and aggressive trap beats just like this? I'm going to show you the 5-step formula that works every time, even if you don't know much about music theory. And I'm also going to be showing you some very slept on VSTs that I've been using a lot recently. I've been a full-time producer for almost 5 years now, and I've experimented with a ton of different sounds and styles to gain a pretty good understanding of trap production. So in this video, I'm going to break everything down for you. So let's get straight into it. Okay, so step number 1 is to create tension. Now, when we're making trap melodies, there's a couple techniques we can use to create a dark and tense feeling, and I'm going to break it down for you. So first of all, let's set the BPM. I think I want this to be somewhere around 152, and I'm going to start with the piano. Doesn't mean that we're going to keep this instrument, but I like using the piano to start with because it's really easy to hear the notes and hear the melody, and then we can play around with different sounds and find something that we like. Or we might end up keeping the piano, who knows. But I'm going to start with the Austrian Grand from UVI, just a real nice grand piano. Now, I don't always recommend setting a scale because it can sometimes put you in a box, but I'm going to do it for this video just because it's going to be easier to break everything down for you. So if we're creating something dark, most of the time it's going to be in a minor scale, so we'll use minor natural for now, and we'll just start with C sharp. Now, to build a chord, we're going to skip a note in the scale, go up to E, then skip another note and go to G sharp. Now we've got a simple triad chord. It's going to get a bit more advanced soon, but if we press Ctrl and B to copy it, a way we can create tension is by using semitones or half steps. So if you look in the scale, we've got D sharp and E, and G sharp and A. So they're the notes that we can use to create that tense feeling. So with this, I could bring this down. You probably heard this in a ton of drill and trap melodies. Let's just pitch it up. So we could do it with the E and D sharp, or we can do it with the G sharp and A. So obviously this seems very basic, but we're just using this as a foundation because most dark melodies tend to start with something like this. What we're going to do now is pitch this one up an octave with Control and up. Same with that as well. And we could also take these, press Shift and left click to copy, Control and up. So now it's just sounding a bit bigger. Now to add some rhythm to this, we're just going to move some of these notes out. So for example, we can move this. We'll make this a bit faster. So let's just cut the end off there, and then we'll bring this back. Could even bring this out as well. Bring this up. Alright, and then we'll press Ctrl and B to copy it, and then we'll change something here. Even just something as simple as moving this up. Then we could add some top notes as well. So we could add the root note. Use those half steps. Then it will come back down. Let's try this. So even that melody is way more interesting. Add a couple more too. Move this back down. Now what we could do is just copy this with Control B. In this one, I'll get rid of that and bring this out. So again, we've got that bit of variation. And I might just change something right at the end there, even if it's just the bass notes. So we could do something like bringing this up 5, bring this up as well. There we go. So it's sounding dark, it's not too melodic, we've got some variation, so this is a nice start. But we also don't want everything playing at the same velocity and perfectly on grid. So I like to make things a bit more natural by holding Alt and left clicking and just bringing some notes off to make it more human. The shortcuts for this like Alt and S, but I just prefer the manual way. Same with the velocity, so we could press Alt and R and this will just randomize it. Already sounds a lot better. Let's pitch this down an octave too, so controlling down. So once I've got the melody that I like, at this point I'll just experiment with different sounds until I find the right preset. So I'm going back to UVI Workstation, and I'm really spoiled for choice in here, man, but I'm just thinking we could find some cool synths. So we could either use Falcon or Synthonology. Like this. That sounds hard. I like this too. Okay, I've just pulled up Falcon, which is a real slept on plugin, man. There's so many different sounds in here. And I've got this organic keys preset from the Aurora bank, because I'm thinking I do want to keep a piano in here, but I want to layer it. So I just like the sound of this one, but I'm going to layer it with that water pluck preset. Just want to add in another bass note. There we go. Then this one too. So I've got the main melody. Now I'm hearing something like a pad or a string just to sit underneath it, and this will be more constant. These ones in Falcon are hard. Something like this could work. So with this, we're just going to use the same chords. Like, even that sounds crazy. Now I'm thinking maybe one more melody, and it's just gonna be something like a lead or a pluck, just some sort of top line. Let's go back to Falcon and check out some of the leads. I actually prefer this preset. I think it's a bit more subtle. So with this melody, I'm kind of following the notes of the piano. I'm using the root note a lot and just sticking in the scale. So you can see when you're building melodies that you don't have to come up with loads of different melodies. You can usually just take the one melody that you start with, paste that into other plugins, and then base your other melodies off that. And that's by using the chords, following some of the top notes, or just by using notes that are already in the chords and scale. But if you want to check out any of the plugins I've been using so far, such as the whole UVI workstation, the thousands of presets in Falcon, and everything else that UVI have, they're currently celebrating their 2-year anniversary of Sonic Pass, where you can get access to all of the products for only $24 a month. So I'll leave a link to that in the description. You've probably seen me using their plugins a lot, especially the World Suite, which I use to create a lot of the melodies for Planet Drill. So this is one that I'd highly recommend. Okay, so now we want to think about processing. So I'm going to press Ctrl and L to link these to mixers. I'm just going to take some low end out of those plucks and some high end. Just really filtering that out. Same with the pad. We don't really need the low end from that. Just gone to my global glitches pole bank. I'm just adding some reverse underwater effect. And once I've been playing the melody for too long, my ears start getting a bit burnt out. So what I like to do is just transpose it. So let's move everything up too. Now it just gives us a different vibe, and it might spark a few new ideas. Like I might change that to this. I think that fits better. Ooh, some halftime as well. See, now we've gone from this to this. Just a unique sound. Next up, I'm going to add halftime to the keys, but we'll pitch it up an octave because halftime brings it down. Like, that sounds kind of crazy. This could be a verse section. Like, even that, it's just subtle, but it just makes it a little bit more interesting. Okay, so I'm liking the mix of everything. Now what I'm going to try and do is flip this and see if we can get something even better. So we'll need a couple different sections. One will just be the keys and the plucks. One can be everything. Then one can just be the keys. And then one can be the halftime section as well. This is just to experiment. It might not sound right, but I like to try. So I'm going to render the master. Just hitting Alt and R when that's checked. And I like to render things because it's easier to manipulate audio than it is with MIDI. So from here I can set this to stretch. Maybe change the key. Pitch it up again. Could try reverse it. Like, that sounds hard. You see, like the lead now, I'm not feeling the lead there, so that might not be needed. So I'm going to go back, mute the lead, and we'll try again. So I've rendered that one. We'll go to chop, time-based, and then bars. Now because it's reversed, I'm just going to bring it back around. And I use this technique a lot, but it just always seems to work, man. See that now? Sounds mad. Okay, I'm definitely feeling this melody now. So we're going to move on to step 3, which is drum sequencing. So I always start with the snare, clap or rim just to get the rhythm going, and then I move on to the hats. Now if I'm trying to make something vibey and melodic, I might add a bit of space to the hat and make it more bouncy, but because this is going to be a dark, hard and just fast trap beat, I'm going to start with every 2-step. So when I'm adding rolls, I'm just hearing the bounce in my head. You want to do things intentionally. So for example, I liked the way this one sounded going into the snare. And then the other ones are just personal taste. Okay, I'm hearing the open hat next. Let's grab an 808 too. We'll just fade it out a bit, make it more bouncy. We're just going to boost it. The 808 might be hitting a bit too high for my liking, so I might pitch everything down. There we go. Crazy. For variation, sometimes I'll add a couple different 808s, and I think it will work for this one. I'm thinking even just one note. Keeps it sounding interesting. Could add a CTM in some parts too. So now we've got a couple different basses to work with, but I still want to add more bounce to this. First of all, I'm just hearing an open hat. Maybe two. We could have that one and then a shorter one. And with the open hats, because I went to the wrench tool and cut them by the same number, they'll never overlap. Maybe we could just add one more thing for some bounce. Maybe a second snare or some sort of perk. I always like to add this snare as my counter one. Yeah, this works. And when I'm adding perks and other snares, I'm really just trying to find the space. I'm trying to find the gap. So if you look, I've added them there because they're kind of bouncing off the kick and the 808. Everything's got its own pocket, and if I add any more drums at this point, I think I'd just be doing too much. So we're going to move on to step 4, which is mixing. So of course we need to make sure that everything has its own mixer channel. So these are already linked, but we'll go back to the mixer, Control Shift and L, send those two. Now you'll notice I've been leveling and mixing as I've been going, and that's because it's just going to save you a lot of time. And most of mixing does actually come down to sound selection and leveling. So because we've picked nice punchy drums, nice crisp drums, we don't really need to do a lot more to them. We just need to make sure that they have their own space. But usually I like to have my kick and the 808 quite loud, and I don't mind it clipping because on the master channel I've just got a classic clipper. So in the 808 I was just using the boost tool until I like the sound. So I think there's a sweet spot. Next loudest thing will be the snare. I usually find it sitting somewhere around -2, -3. Then the hat's a bit under that. Then with the perks we can pan these a bit. So the second snare can go to the left. Same with this other open hat. With the open hats, one's already panned to the right, so with the other, I'm just bringing it to the left. Just all about finding balance. And then with the melody, I usually find it sitting somewhere around -6. And we've just got an EQ to take out the low end. And that's just saving room for the 808. So we'll just check the last two 808s. So they don't need to be as loud as the first one in terms of dB because they have a higher perceived loudness. So that's why people say you have to trust your ears instead of going by readings. And for trap beats, that's all you really need for mixing. You don't need to overcomplicate it. As long as you're picking good sounds to start with, you've got good leveling, panning, and some sort of clipper on the master, you're pretty much good to go. So that moves me on to step 5, which is arrangement. So I like the way everything sounds. I'm going to go to drums and split by channel. Then we'll bring these back out. We can just copy them over. We'll bring these out. So I'm thinking we could start with this part. I usually like to have more energy in the hook. So we'll just have an 8-bar intro, goes to this section, and then this part has the strings. So the second part of the hook is just going to have a little bit more going on compared to the first half. So this whole section will be the hook. Usually that same amount will be the verse, and then you'll have half of that for a bridge. So I'm thinking we save the kick for the second half of the hook, get rid of the Detroit bass and that other 808. We'll even get rid of some of these perks. Then we can make a couple cuts here. Then after the hook, we have all this energy that's built up. Now we just need to release it again. So we could start by cutting everything, and then we'll just try a couple different things. Maybe get rid of that. Then when it gets to this part, we just need something playing there. Maybe a sub bass. So let's go to Falcon. We'll see what they got. Maybe this one. This one sounds hard. I'm going to render that though because I want it to cut more like this. And then where it cuts, we're just going to experiment. So we're going to take this, make it unique. Then we're going to add some delay. So we'll pull up dual delay from UVI. We'll go to creative, and then I've got this arrowhead phaser. And that sounds kind of hard. Could even pitch that one bit up an octave. Sounds kind of mad, but I like it. Maybe this one right at the end. We could do one more thing before the drop. We're just going to add a tape stop. Yeah, that's the one. Now we can just go back to the hook and we can copy that over. We'll have the hook one final time, and then we could just have the melody play out. And at the beginning of the verse, we can pitch the melody down an octave. Okay, let's have a listen to the final thing. So we just got a simple melody. The most simple chop.
Cactus.
This one sounding hard. snares. So I'm just keeping the energy with this one. We've got that other bass too. Leading into the bridge. So if you like this and you want more videos just like it, then click up here and make sure you check out UVI in the description.